Pain is not punishment, it's preparation. Every man who has ever become someone of real value has met pain like an old friend. The weak see pain as something to escape. The strong see it as a message. Pain is the teacher that the universe sends when it's time to level up. Because you can't learn resilience in comfort, you can't develop strength in ease, and you can't build a warrior's heart in safety. Pain strips you down. It burns away weakness, laziness, and excuses until only truth remains, who you really are beneath all the noise. When everything's going right, everyone can act disciplined, everyone can look confident, everyone can pretend they're tough. But when life hits you hard, when the people you trusted turn on you, when success seems miles away, that's when the real you shows up. Pain reveals the truth. It doesn't lie. It shows you whether you're built for this or not, and that's exactly why it's necessary. Pain is the initiation ritual every man must endure before the world takes him seriously. It's the price of admission into greatness. Andrew Tate often says that pain is the filter life uses to separate the men from the boys. Most people will never make it through that filter because they're too afraid to face the fire. They want growth without sacrifice, success without scars. But the world doesn't work that way. Every champion has been broken at some point. Every warrior has cried in silence. Every king has bled for his crown. The difference is, they didn't stay broken. They didn't let pain define them. They used it to refine them. Pain prepares you by introducing you to parts of yourself you didn't know existed. You don't discover your limits when things are easy. You discover them when life crushes you and you still refuse to surrender. You realize that pain doesn't just take, it gives. It gives you perspective. It gives you hunger. It gives you the gift of humility, the reminder that you're not invincible, but you can become unstoppable. Pain introduces you to fear, but it also teaches you courage. It breaks your body, but it strengthens your mind. Every moment you endure pain with purpose, you're transforming. It's the same reason why steel has to go through fire before it becomes unbreakable. The process hurts, but it's what gives it strength. That's what pain does to a man. It refines him, sharpens him, hardens him. Without it, you remain soft, untested, and weak. A man who's never faced pain is a man who doesn't know himself. And if you don't know yourself, the world will break you easily. Think about it. The greatest lessons you've ever learned didn't come from comfort. They came from chaos. They came from heartbreak, failure, loss, and rejection. You don't grow when you win. You grow when you survive. Pain is the language through which destiny speaks. It doesn't whisper. It roars. And only those who are brave enough to listen to it can rise above mediocrity. Pain prepares you for war long before the battle begins. Every struggle you've faced, every disappointment, every night you thought you wouldn't make it, that was training. The world was shaping you, conditioning you, turning your soft edges into armor. That's why the real ones never complain about their pain. They respect it. They understand it's not there to destroy them. It's there to build them. There's a reason people who've been through hell walk differently. They don't flinch easily. They don't panic when things go wrong. They've already faced darkness and survived it. Pain gave them clarity, power, and peace. Because when you've already suffered deeply, nothing else scares you anymore. You become dangerous, not because you seek pain, but because you've learned how to turn it into strength. That's what pain truly is, preparation for a life that demands more from you than you think you can give. It's not something to run from, it's something to learn from. Every bruise, every scar, every tear is proof that you're evolving, that you're becoming someone who can handle what others can't. Pain doesn't punish, it purifies. It takes everything soft, uncommitted, and fearful in you and replaces it with power, precision, and purpose. Comfort is the silent killer of greatness. It doesn't destroy you all at once. It slowly drains the fire out of you. It gives you just enough ease to stop fighting, just enough pleasure to stop growing. Most men think pain is the enemy, but it's not. The real enemy is comfort. Comfort whispers lies. It tells you that you've done enough, that you deserve to rest, that you can always start tomorrow. And that's how it wins. Not through pain, but through softness. Comfort doesn't challenge you, it seduces you. It makes you weak by convincing you that weakness is peace. Andrew Tate says that comfort is the enemy of achievement because it tricks the mind into believing it's safe when in reality it's dying. The gym hurts, but staying out of shape hurts more. Waking up early is tough, but wasting your life sleeping in is tougher. Discipline stings, but regret burns forever. Comfort will never give you the life you dream about. It only gives you the illusion of satisfaction. It's like a warm bed on a cold morning. It feels good for a moment, but it keeps you from stepping out and facing the world where your destiny is waiting. The truth is, no man has ever achieved greatness by staying comfortable. The kings, the warriors, the champions, they all had to suffer. They had to do the things no one wanted to do. They had to embrace discomfort until it became their natural state. Pain became their oxygen. Struggle became their rhythm. Because that's how you grow. You don't become powerful by staying in your comfort zone. You become powerful by surviving outside of it. Comfort makes men forget who they are. It dulls the instincts that once made them hungry, sharp, and ambitious. When you're comfortable, you stop hunting, you stop fighting, you stop improving. You start scrolling through life, convincing yourself you're content while your potential rots inside you. You start to justify mediocrity by calling it peace. But peace without purpose is just surrender. You weren't born to sit still. You were born to move, to build, to conquer. Every great man knows that comfort must be earned, not lived in. You rest when the battle is won, not when it begins. Comfort is a reward, not a lifestyle. The men who treat it as a lifestyle lose everything. Respect, ambition, drive. The men who treat it as a reward keep rising because they understand the formula: discomfort equals growth, growth equals power, and power equals freedom. If you want a life that most people can't have, you must be willing to live a life that most people won't. That means choosing discomfort daily. It means trading the soft pillow for the hard truth. The problem is, comfort feels good now but costs you later. Pain feels bad now but pays you forever. Every time you pick the easy path, you trade long-term strength for short-term relief, and that trade destroys men. That's why Tate says the difference between men who rise and men who fall is simple. The ones who rise have learned to love the struggle. They've learned to make discomfort feel like home. They don't avoid it, they chase it. Because they understand that the man who can handle the most discomfort controls the most outcomes. The reality is, growth and comfort can't coexist. One has to die for the other to live. If you want to become the man who commands his destiny, you have to stop choosing what feels good and start choosing what builds you. Comfort has no place in the life of someone who wants power. You have to live like a soldier even when you're surrounded by softness. You have to discipline yourself to reject ease when it tempts you, because that temptation is the test. The world doesn't give crowns to the comfortable. It gives them to the ones who bleed for them. Comfort is the reason most men never find out how powerful they could have been. It robs them of their potential and leaves them hollow, wondering why they feel empty even though they have everything they wanted. The truth is, they stopped earning their victories. They stopped fighting. And when a man stops fighting, he stops living. Because men are meant to battle. We are meant to overcome. Comfort may feel safe, but it's the cage that keeps you from your purpose. Pain isn't just physical. It's mental, emotional, and spiritual. The battles that matter most don't happen in the gym or on the streets. They happen inside your mind. That's where real war begins. Anyone can lift weights, but not everyone can lift the burden of failure. Anyone can pretend to be strong when things are easy, but it takes a different kind of man to stay calm when his world is collapsing. That's mental fortitude. That's the true definition of strength. Andrew Tate always says that pain doesn't destroy you. It reveals your mindset. Because pain doesn't care how you look, what car you drive, or how many people follow you online. Pain attacks your thoughts, your willpower, your belief system. It gets inside your head and whispers, "You can't handle this." And most people listen. They fold, they break. But the few who don't, those are the ones who rise, because they understand that pain is not something you escape, it's something you master mentally. Mental strength isn't built by reading quotes or watching motivation videos. It's built by surviving your darkest days. It's built by forcing yourself to keep moving when everything in you screams to quit. It's built by accepting pain, not avoiding it. Because the mind is like a muscle. If you don't train it under stress, it stays weak. The man who can remain calm under chaos is untouchable. When you can control your emotions under pressure, you've already beaten half the world. The problem with most men today is that they've been trained to fear pain, not to use it. They run from discomfort, they medicate sadness, they drown frustration in distractions. But that only makes them weaker. Pain is supposed to wake you up, not numb you. Every struggle, every rejection, every heartbreak is an invitation to strengthen your mind. It's life saying, let's see how bad you want it. Because everyone wants success until it hurts. That's when most people disappear. But warriors, they don't disappear, they adapt. Mental fortitude is built when life takes something from you and you keep moving anyway. It's built when you're betrayed, humiliated, or overlooked and still refuse to let it change your mission. You can't be mentally strong if your emotions control you. You have to become the kind of man who feels pain but doesn't flinch, who gets hit but doesn't fall apart. Because pain doesn't go away, it just waits for the weak to surrender. To conquer pain, you have to talk to yourself differently. You can't let your thoughts spiral into weakness. You have to command your mind like a soldier commands his troops. When your brain says, stop, you respond with one more. When your emotions say, it's too hard, you say, that's exactly why I'm doing it. That's how you reprogram your mind for war. You stop running from pain and start running toward it, because pain is the only training ground that builds resilience. The truth is, mental toughness is rare because it's uncomfortable. It requires silence, self-discipline, and an unshakable belief in yourself when no one else believes. It means standing tall in the storm when the world expects you to collapse. And that's not easy. But that's what separates warriors from the average. The warrior doesn't avoid pain, he studies it. He learns its patterns, its triggers, its lessons. He doesn't let it break his focus, he uses it to sharpen his vision. When you master your mind, pain becomes fuel. You stop seeing it as a threat and start seeing it as an opportunity to grow stronger. Pain loses its power the moment you stop fearing it. Because once you've endured enough, your mind becomes bulletproof. You stop reacting to pressure, you perform under it. You stop crying over setbacks, you convert them into strategies. That's what real strength looks like. Every time you overcome pain mentally, you add another layer of armor to your soul. You become harder to manipulate, harder to defeat, harder to break. The world throws chaos your way, but you walk through it with focus and clarity. You've seen pain before, and now it doesn't scare you, it respects you. Because pain knows it can't control a man who has mastered his mind. And once you reach that point, you don't just survive the storm, you become it. Discipline is the armor that shields a man from being destroyed by pain. It's the weapon that separates those who talk about success from those who actually build it. Motivation is temporary. It dies the moment life gets uncomfortable. But discipline is eternal. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't need inspiration. It just demands action. That's why Andrew Tate always says a man without discipline is a man without direction. Because without it, pain will consume you. With it, pain becomes powerless. Pain will test you every single day. It will whisper in your ear to take the easy route, to skip the workout, to sleep in, to quit early. And that's where discipline steps in. Discipline silences that voice. It tells you, we'll move anyway. Discipline doesn't negotiate, it commands. Because pain is not supposed to control your choices, discipline is. The difference between a weak man and a warrior isn't the amount of pain they feel. It's how disciplined they are in enduring it. Weak men surrender when they hurt. Warriors stay consistent. They show up through the pain, not around it. Discipline turns pain into progress. Every time you push through discomfort, you strengthen your ability to control your mind and body. That's why pain is a gift. It gives you a chance to practice discipline. It gives you a reason to prove that you are stronger than your emotions. A disciplined man doesn't act on how he feels. He acts on what he's committed to. He doesn't care if he's tired, if it's raining, or if no one's watching. He shows up. He executes. Because discipline isn't about results, it's about identity. You either are disciplined or you're not. And that truth shows up in every part of your life. Pain makes people fold because they don't have systems. They rely on feelings, and feelings are unreliable. One bad day, one hard moment, and they give up. Discipline removes that weakness. It gives you structure when the world falls apart. It's your armor against chaos. When your body screams to stop, discipline says keep going. When your mind says it's too hard, discipline says too bad. That's why disciplined men are dangerous. They don't rely on external forces to push them forward. They are self-driven, self-controlled, and self-made. Discipline doesn't make pain disappear. It makes you strong enough to endure it. It transforms suffering into fuel. You begin to crave the grind, not because it's easy, but because it's the only thing that makes you feel alive. You understand that every rep, every early morning, every sacrifice is shaping you into something unbreakable. You stop seeking comfort because you found meaning in discomfort. And that's when you realize discipline is not punishment, it's freedom. Freedom from weakness, from laziness, from the need to be motivated. Pain teaches you how to endure, but discipline teaches you how to control that endurance. Anyone can get through a hard day by luck or emotion, but discipline makes you consistent. It's what keeps you on track when motivation dies. It's what forces you to show up when everything in you wants to quit. That's why Tate says success doesn't belong to the most talented or the most gifted. It belongs to the most disciplined. Because pain doesn't destroy disciplined men, it polishes them. When you live with discipline, you stop being afraid of pain, you start using it. You start seeing every challenge as a test to prove your consistency. Discipline makes pain predictable. It becomes part of your process. You stop avoiding it because you know it's necessary. You don't fear the grind, you respect it. You don't wait for perfect conditions, you create them. You understand that every day you stay disciplined, you win, even if no one notices. The truth is, discipline is not built in comfort. It's built in the dark moments when no one's clapping, when progress feels invisible, when you're tired but you still move. That's where warriors are made. Discipline is what keeps your fire burning long after the motivation dies out. It's what keeps you training when your body aches, working when your mind says stop, and standing when life knocks you down. Pain might test you, but discipline ensures you pass every single time. Because when a man wears discipline like armor, no amount of pain can pierce him. When you stop fearing pain, you start controlling it. Most men spend their entire lives running from pain as if it's a monster chasing them. But the truth is, pain only hunts those who try to escape it. Once you turn around and face it, you realize it's not there to destroy you, it's there to test you. And the moment you stop fearing it, it becomes your greatest weapon. That's where true power begins. Andrew Tate often says that real strength comes from your ability to endure what others can't. Pain isn't the end of your journey, it's the doorway to your transformation. Power doesn't come from comfort. Power is born in moments of suffering, in those silent hours when no one's watching you, when everything in your body screams to quit, but you don't. Every rep that burns, every setback that hurts, every failure that humiliates you, it's all building your foundation of power. Pain is not the enemy, it's the training partner you didn't know you needed. The problem is, most men fear pain because they associate it with weakness. But pain isn't weakness leaving your body, it's weakness being exposed so that it can be eliminated. When you learn to control pain, you gain control over everything. Pain is the one constant in life. It's unavoidable. No matter how successful, how wealthy, or how disciplined you become, you will face pain. But when you master your relationship with it, you become untouchable. Because the man who can handle pain without losing focus is unstoppable. Pain no longer controls his emotions. It doesn't break his rhythm. It doesn't shake his confidence. It becomes his compass. It tells him he's on the right path. Because growth always hurts. You see, pain creates perspective. When you've been through enough of it, small problems don't bother you anymore. You stop reacting emotionally to things that used to shake you. You develop a calmness, a cold confidence, a warrior's composure. Pain teaches you that control is everything, not control over the world, but control over yourself. When life gets tough, weak men panic. Strong men adjust. That's the difference between those who win and those who collapse under pressure. The truth is, pain is the only thing honest enough to show you where you actually stand. It reveals your limits and then challenges you to break them. That's why most people never become powerful. They avoid that confrontation. They avoid the moments that test their spirit. But warriors understand that power isn't given, it's forged through endurance. You want strength, you'll have to earn it by going through pain. You want dominance, you'll have to bleed for it. You want respect, you'll have to suffer longer than the men who quit. Pain is the most efficient teacher because it doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't care about your excuses. It forces you to look at yourself and decide, am I really who I say I am? It's in those moments of exhaustion and defeat that real men are born. You learn to keep moving forward when your legs shake. You learn to stay disciplined when your emotions betray you. You learn that pain isn't the end of the road. It's the test to see if you deserve to keep walking. Once you stop fearing pain, life changes. You no longer need comfort to feel secure. You no longer need things to go your way to stay focused. You operate differently. Pain becomes part of your fuel. You don't avoid it. You search for it because you know every ounce of pain carries a lesson, a new level of strength, a sharper edge to your mindset. That's how power is built. Not through ease, but through endurance. Every great man you've ever admired has one thing in common: they all suffered more than others were willing to. They turned their pain into productivity, their suffering into strength. They learned that control over pain is control over destiny. Because once you can endure anything, no one can stop you. Pain loses its grip, fear disappears, doubt fades, and all that's left is clarity, focus, and purpose. That's what makes you powerful. Not the absence of pain, but the ability to face it head on and use it to fuel your next victory. The world doesn't need more comfortable men. It doesn't need more men chasing temporary happiness or avoiding discomfort to protect their ego. The world needs warriors, men who've been broken, tested, and refined through pain. Because pain doesn't just change how you act, it changes who you are. It strips away the fake layers of confidence, the illusion of strength, and reveals what's real. A man who's been through hell and survived it walks differently. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need to prove himself. Pain has already done that for him. Andrew Tate says that real men are not born. They're built in the fires of adversity. You can't read your way into being a warrior. You can't talk your way into strength. You must earn it through pain, discipline, and endurance. Pain transforms you because it forces you to evolve. Every time life punches you in the face, you either rise sharper or you stay shattered. Pain gives you that choice. Most men run from it because it feels unbearable. But the few who stand their ground, who embrace the storm, who keep fighting even when there's no light left, those are the men the world remembers. Becoming a warrior isn't about looking strong. It's about being unshackable. It's about keeping your composure when life is collapsing around you. Pain teaches you that control isn't about avoiding chaos. It's about mastering yourself within it. That's what real masculinity is. Not aggression, not ego, but inner power. The kind that can't be taken away because it was built through suffering. Pain breaks the weak, but it builds the strong. It takes every soft, emotional, undisciplined part of you and replaces it with focus, confidence, and clarity. When you've faced enough pain, you stop being afraid of life. You stop running from struggle because you understand it's the only thing that keeps you sharp. A warrior isn't addicted to winning. He's addicted to evolving. Every battle, every failure, every scar becomes proof that he's still standing when others have fallen. Pain becomes his training ground. He doesn't see it as punishment. He sees it as preparation. Because every time you conquer pain, you unlock a new version of yourself, stronger, smarter, colder, more calculated. The man who has faced real pain carries an aura that no fake confidence can replicate. You can see it in his eyes, the calmness of someone who has been broken before and rebuilt himself with his own hands. He doesn't need to scream to prove he's powerful. His silence speaks louder than any words. That's the transformation pain gives you. It teaches you to stop talking about what you'll do and start becoming the man who does it. It teaches you that true warriors don't boast, they execute. Pain turns your emotions into energy. It takes all that anger, frustration, and disappointment and channels it into purpose. That's why warriors move differently. They don't waste time complaining or blaming others. They've realized that life doesn't get easier. You just get stronger. They've learned that every ounce of suffering they endure builds a deeper sense of gratitude, focus, and hunger. Pain becomes their compass. It points them toward what matters. Because nothing worth having ever comes easy, and the men who understand that rule the world. When you become a warrior, Pain stops being something that happens to you. It becomes something you use. You start using pain to sharpen your focus, to deepen your discipline, to strengthen your resolve. You stop avoiding hard things because you know that everything great is hidden behind them. You realize that your greatest power isn't in avoiding the storm, it's in becoming the storm. That's what separates the average man from the warrior. The average man fears pain, the warrior feeds on it. And that transformation doesn't happen once. It's a daily process. Every day you choose to do what others won't, you strengthen the warrior within. Every time you face pain and refuse to back down, you prove to yourself that you are built for this. Because in the end, pain doesn't just create warriors, it creates legacy. The kind of men whose strength outlives them, the kind of men whose discipline becomes inspiration. Pain forges warriors because it doesn't ask for permission. It demands evolution. And those who accept that challenge become the unbreakable few who walk through life undefeated. Pain transforms. It doesn't just break bones. It rebuilds character. Every man who's ever risen from darkness understands that pain was never his enemy. It was his greatest teacher. It's the fire that melts away weakness, the storm that exposes what's fake, and the force that shapes warriors out of ordinary men. Because every scar you carry tells the story of a battle you refused to lose. Every struggle you survived added a layer of strength that no comfort could ever give. The truth is simple. Without pain, there's no power, no growth, no greatness. Andrew Tate's message cuts deep because it's real. He doesn't sugarcoat life. He reminds you that the road to becoming a warrior is paved with pain, sacrifice, and relentless self-discipline. The man who learns to use pain instead of escaping it becomes unstoppable. He no longer fears failure, rejection, or loss. He understands that life will never stop testing him. But he also knows he'll never stop rising. Pain gave him that certainty. It gave him clarity. It gave him purpose. So if you're in pain right now, good. That means you're being prepared for something greater. The difference between the weak and the warrior isn't the pain they face, but how they respond to it. The weak hide, complain, and crumble. The warrior endures, adapts, and ascends, because he knows pain isn't meant to destroy him. It's meant to define him. And once a man realizes that, there's nothing left in this world that can break him.